And welcome into the Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Chris Clark sitting in with you and joined by another special guest from the Gamecock football program. Excited to have on Judge Collier again. Judge, how's it going, man? Appreciate you taking time to join me.
Everything's good, man.
Outstanding. Good to hear. I think I was looking back, and I think the last time that we had you here on the show was back in last June, before the season. So obviously, a lot has happened since that
Yeah.
time. It's kind of hard to believe you just wrapped up year two
hmm
and you're going into year three. I mean, has it gone by probably even faster for you since you're the one living it out than for me? It just seems like just yesterday you're getting recruited here.
Yeah, it goes by pretty fast. Like this time 3 years ago, I had first came in here as my first winter workout, first spring ball. So yeah, it's going by fast. So like going into year three, we're approaching the end of winter workouts and starting spring ball. So yeah, it moves fast.
What's your just comfort level just generally compared to you enrolling, like you said, early as a freshman, January, um, and that can be with football or it can just be like just generally, right? Because you come in, I mean, I think people forget sometimes you come in as a freshman and everybody's always thinking about the playbook and is this guy ready to play? It's like you're also talking about like a 17, 18, maybe 19-year-old who's also like going to college for the first time and going to college classes. Like, so there's so much there, but what's just your comfort level compared to what it was then?
Yeah, I feel real comfortable. I'm setting everything, as far as, classes and the schedule and lift and practice, playbook, having that relationship with my coaches. So yeah, I feel like I'm pretty comfortable going into year three now.
So let's take a little bit of time and we're obviously gonna, look at this off season. We're gonna look kind of ahead to your junior year and some of your personal goals and everything. But let's definitely look back at 2024 because it was a pretty cool year, I know, for you guys and certainly for Gamecock fans who follow you so closely. Um, what are your just overall thoughts about last season? I mean, looking back on it, getting 9 wins, getting a rivalry win, what stands out to you the most, just as a starting point?
Really just at how we dominated as a whole, like especially as a defense. Like this season, going into this season, we made a lot of statements. Going into that 24 season, we were like we were gonna be dominant. Debo made it clear that he wanted to put up donuts and this, that, and the third, and just how we dominated teams. Like you look at Oklahoma and how we just jumped out the gate instantly. We jumped on them, turnover after turnover after turnover, and just being that dominant team, and taking the life away from other teams' offense is probably what stuck out to me the most.
Yeah, I that Oklahoma game is one that a lot of your teammates have mentioned when I've talked to them here on the show, and you know, they always point to the week before at Alabama, and that
Mm-hmm.
was, y'all had obviously shown glimpses, like think back to the Kentucky game, right? Like how well the defense played in that game. Um, the performance against Alabama had a bunch of highs, a bunch of lows, ultimately fell short. But like, what do you remember about the aftermath of Alabama? Because from what some of your teammates have told me, it was a kind of just like, I don't know, a switch flipped after that.
Yeah, it was like something's got to give. Like Coach Beamer was making a point, like you got to kick the door down, and something's got to give. Like we had lost to Ole Miss, then we were right there with LSU, we were right there with Alabama, and then it was like, all right, like something's got to give, and we just went on that run and we knocked off everybody else up until that bowl game. So I think that's just how it went.
What was it about the defense that made you guys at times so dominant, right? Because you had been, you were obviously a freshman on the 2023 defense, but you played a lot. But like, if you look at, the statistical production, the results, just all of that, right?
Mhm.
It was there was such a big leap from 2023 to 2024. What do you attribute that to? Like what stands out?
I'd probably say, like, the guys that we had coming back from that 23 season, so that they were older. So the 23 season, Nick and DQ came back. That was their junior year. They were older. Then we got guys at the portal like Kyle and D Knight, and just their leadership and how, they're coming from other schools and other programs, but they are older guys. So their leadership and what they brought to the table. And then just everybody being a year older as well. Me, Jalen, uh that front that we have, and then with the addition of Dylan Stewart too. So I think it all just went hand in hand, and it just merged well.
Well, and that's something I'm glad you brought that up, like just the veteran presence on that team. And you're coming back, several others are coming back, right, defensively, but there are a lot of guys that were older that are, were seniors or fifth year seniors, like D Knight, like Kyle, Debo, D Knight, etc. I mean, how hard do you think that's going to be to replace just not only just them as players, right, but the leadership that those guys brought?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that, you there's only one Debo, so I mean, to find another Debo, that's one in a million. But the guys that were
Yeah.
here last year, seeing how those guys lead, how those guys led, and then picking up where they left off. I think we have the guys to do that. So I think, the young guys will step up. The guys who are, not young but not old, you know what I'm saying? They'll
Yeah.
find their role, and they'll become, that leader, that voice of the team.
Do you think that Coach Gray, Coach White, Coach Beamer, Coach Day in the weight room and during, off-season workouts and conditioning, do you get a sense that they're looking at you a little bit more of, hey, you're a junior judge, like it's your time to do a little bit more leading as well?
Yeah, I've had those talks with those guys, and that's something I got to get more comfortable with as well. Being an older guy, you could say, going into my junior year, I find it hard to say that I'm an older guy and I'm 19 years old. There's 19-year-old freshmen, but
Yeah.
yeah, going to year three, yeah, I've had those conversations with Coach Day, and him just wanting me to be more of a leader, and not lead by example but be more vocal. So that's something I'm working on this off season to take into this next season.
So when you got to USC, you were still 17 years old.
Hmm.
You played in a game when you were 17, or were you 18 at that point?
I was 18 at that
Yeah.
point.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna say that's really. I mean, that's still kind of crazy, right? Like to you know play
I,
in the SEC as a true freshman at 18.
yeah, because I went all the way through spring ball at 17. Yeah, that was different. Grown men out there, like lining in front of Xavier Leggett. Like, man, he was an older guy, and I'm 17 years old. So yeah, that was different, but
Yeah.
it made me
Well,
better.
no doubt. Yeah, and that's you look at D Knight, Kyle, like these are guys that like are dads, like they're
Yeah,
however
like they
old,
got
like
kids.
yeah, it's just different. Like it's grown men for sure. Um, well, you opened up a little bit on the off season, right? So tell us, and we'll probably go even more deep into this after we take a quick break here shortly. But what are y'all doing right now, just from like a schedule standpoint?
Just following the schedule that Coach Beamer and Coach Day have implemented for us. So right now it's just lift, 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 and then we'll do like some football stuff on Fridays, and then
Yeah.
just repeat that schedule. Taking care of our bodies, making sure that we're recovering and doing all that. But just sticking to the schedule that they have planned for us.
What when you kind of think about this off season, going into year three, hard to believe, but what are some things that you maybe not on the field, we'll get there, but just during your preparation in the off season, what are some things that you're really, really focused on, whether it's something you decided or just talking with Coach Day, your position coach, Coach Gray? What are some things you're really honing in on this off season?
Um, you know, with Coach Gray, at the end of every year we'll have those exit meetings, and with
Yeah.
him, I stress to him and he stressed to me that I want to improve, football IQ. going into next season. That's one of my biggest things. Improve football IQ, know the game. And when you know the game and you know what's coming, it makes the game a whole lot easier. So you get the ability to make more plays. You feel more comfortable. So just improving that. Through spring ball, through the summer and through camp as well, all the way up until we're playing Virginia Tech.
No doubt. All right, we're going to take a quick time out here on the other side. Going to get more into actually going to look back at last season a little bit more, talk about the big win over Clemson, and then talk about the future with Judge Collier here from Gamecock Football. Of course, you're listening to the Gamecock Club Hour here on The Game, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Take a quick time out. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back in. Chris Clark here on the Gamecock Club Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Here on The Game, sitting down for a little while longer with Judge Collier from Gamecock Football. And Judge, I teased it, going into break there. There were so many big wins last year, but I do have to ask you about the Clemson game. Remind the listeners who may have missed the last edition, and remind me actually too, growing up, what did you know about the Clemson Carolina rivalry? Like, I assume you followed it pretty well.
I mean, yeah, being from South Carolina and whatnot. I had a cousin who came here briefly. He played, but I do remember that that rivalry was pretty one-sided at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're starting to change that narrative with these past years. It's become more of a rivalry and not just a game. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my take on it.
So, it's kind of interesting. The road team the past several years has actually won the game. And so you guys have, I know you were on the 2022 team, but went into Death Valley, got a win. Clemson won here in 2023. And then you guys went on the road and beat the Tigers again last season. Walk us through kind of what you're feeling before a game. Obviously, almost every game you guys play is a big game.
Mm-hmm.
And most weeks you guys are lining up against just incredible competition. And that one's no different. But, I mean, is there any different feel like going into a rivalry game like that, especially on the road?
Yeah, it's definitely a different feeling. The atmosphere is different. You got the fans hooting and hollering. You're booed. You're hated. Especially with Clemson, you got to see them run down the hill, touch the rock. Yeah, it's different. It's the last game of this. It's the last game of the regular season. So it is a different feeling. It's a lot more riding on that game, pride, the trophy. So it's pressure, but it's fun. If you're a competitor, that's what you want.
Well, and to look back at that game, what do you see? What did you see from your play individually? And I want to get to a bunch of other things in the game too. But Clemson took some deep shots there. They obviously got there was some good matchups there. Like, they had a couple really good freshman receivers. Obviously, you guys, including yourself, have some outstanding defensive backs. So some really good battles there. But, like, what did you see looking back at that game, or what do you even just remember from it from a matchup standpoint?
Personally,
yeah,
yeah, they got some good receivers. They got some talented receivers. They take shots down the field. There's some plays that I wish I had back, but it is what it is. The game's over with, and ultimately we got the win. But
Yeah.
those are some talented guys. But we look forward to seeing them at the end of the season, every season.
Yeah. Tell me where you were or what was going through your head when Lenoris Sellers, he had so many, he have 166, I think, yards on the ground, and just had a couple huge touchdowns. I mean, especially the last one, 3rd and 16. Did you see those live? Like, what are you thinking at that time?
Yeah, like you see him. So like it's 3rd and 16. The stadium's thumping. And it's like, all right, this is the game right here. Like,
Yeah.
win or go home right here. And Lenore just put the team on his back. Drop back. he doesn't see anything. He steps up and he does what he does best. He's an athlete, so makes a couple guys miss and he finds his way in the end zone. So shouts out to him. He put the team on his back. And then D Knight, he called game, but Lenore's definitely put the team on his back on that one for
What do
sure.
you what are you thinking on that? And I think there was I think a video clip even of this, and Coach Beamer has talked about it publicly, where you guys, after that Lenora score was obviously incredible, and you go up and everybody's feeling pretty good, but then Clemson gets the ball back, right? It's what you
Yeah.
just mentioned. D Knight ends up getting the pick, and it's probably at the time was not funny, but kind of funny now, where Beamer calls everybody over, especially the older guys on defense. Hey, this is why you guys came back. And then it's well, they kind of just went up and down the field. So what's going through your mind there? Because they pretty quickly get in field goal range, and then you're thinking, okay, field goal at a minimum, touchdown wins them the game. What's the mindset there?
Yeah, so they're going down the field, and we just it's starting to be like, all right, somebody's either got to step up, make a play, or this isn't gonna go how we want it to. And D Knight, he called game. I mean, right place, right time, found the ball, and that was the game. I feel like in those moments you got to stay poised, and I feel like that's what he did. He stayed calm. He did what he was supposed to do, and he got the ball back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Huge win there, of course, over the Tigers. Judge, how do you think that you grew from, just year one to year two? We talked earlier about how much more comfortable you felt, from freshman years and early enrollee to now. But how have you seen your actual game grow when you go back and look at your practice stuff, your game film? What stands out to you there?
Confidence. Confidence stands out the most. Like, you can just tell Coach Gray is big on body language, and you can just tell in the body language and the confidence. And I was definitely more confident going into year two. When what was it, ODU? I went out there, I was a starter, and then week after week, I was still a starter, and I was still playing, and I was making these plays, and you just you when you have success, you find confidence, and I was having success, and I was finding confidence, and trusting in everything that Coach Gray taught me and Coach White allowed me to do that.
Why do you think Coach Gray is such a great defensive backs coach? Because we always talk about, me and Wes, my colleagues, here on the show, we always talk about he's got a track record, go check his resume, right? But he's also he just seems to have a knack with young players too, right? Of getting those guys ready, and kind of has an eye for talent. What makes him so good, and then what makes him so good with young players specifically?
Like, Coach Gray is probably one of the better coaches I've had. Now, he's an acquired taste for sure. He has his own way of coaching. It's one of one for sure, but it works, and I'm a true testament to that. Like, he will yell and scream until he gets his way, but once he gets his way, you also look good too. And when you're out there making plays, and part of that is because he played the game, he can resonate with us too.
Yeah.
So, and when he's yelling and screaming at you, it's never personal. Like, in the moment, what I'm saying, you may be frustrated and this, that, and the third, but it's never personal. It's strictly ball with Coach Gray. And I've just learned, from year one to year two, I've also learned, you can't listen to what he said. You can't listen to how he's saying it. It's what he's saying. He's an older man, and he knows what he's talking about. He knows the game. So, I mean, while during the game you have the headset and he's on there, he's going off. He's ripping you a new one. But it's not how he's saying it, it's what he's saying. And then he'll come back on the headset too, and what I'm saying, give you your props if you did something well. So it's never personal with him. You just gotta listen to what he's saying and not how he's saying that. And that's really what I had to learn going from year one to year two.
I know you mentioned, to go back to the football IQ thing. What's the strategy there, to grow in that area? Is that just hey, I'm really going to dive in more than ever into film study and that type of thing? Like you mentioned, you wanted to improve that aspect.
Yeah, a lot of that goes with film study. Meeting with him extra one-on-ones, or
Yeah.
meeting him as a group. As corners, nickels as well. So Yeah, film study's a big one, and then also going over, like, I know this past season I had one of our GAs. I had him make me a cut up of all my mess ups from this past season, whether the ball was thrown or not, if I was beat or not. I had him, make me a cut up of the reps that I lost this past season and going over those. And when you watch those, you tend to find a pattern, and when you
Yep.
find that pattern, it can be fixed. So just watching that and building on that going into year 3.
I want to give you an opportunity to, talk about some of the guys who are going to be your teammates, this coming season again. And, or I actually want to ask you about a couple of new guys. You got some new DBs coming in from the transfer portal route,
Mm-hmm.
with Miles Norwood and Brandon Cisse. What have you just seen? Like, I know you guys aren't in spring practice, obviously, so you're not out there padded up doing football stuff like from that standpoint. But what have you seen from them so far?
Yeah, yeah, Miles, he's a bigger guy. He's like me. He's long,
Yep.
rangy. C says, he's smaller, but he's twitchy. I feel like both those guys would be, guys that we can that'll be used going into this next season.
Good stuff. All right, Judge. Hey, I really appreciate your time, man. It was great to get an opportunity to catch up here before you guys get into spring ball. Again, crazy going into year 3, but wishing you nothing but the best, man. All the health and good stuff to you. And thanks so much for taking some time to join us here on the Gamecock Club Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating.
Appreciate that.